and able to contribute. I think there is a bit of echo coming from somebody's mic. Hello, can someone hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you.
Okay. Yes, so I just want to pick on from where I stopped, that I want to thank so much Mempro for trusting me with this session. And I'm also happy about the topics that have already been covered, about the policies and of course climate change and teenage pregnancies, or gender-based violence and climate change, and others. I am so happy. So I would stick to focusing basically on sustainable practices and how best we can be able to scale up those practices
Gracias.
Sorry, I think there was a problem with my connectivity, and so I had to switch to another, I had to switch my internet basically. Sorry about that. So we've lost a bit of time. Kindly confirm if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I'll be co-facilitating this session with all of us. And I just want to be sure, where do I go to get the participants? Okay. I just want to be sure of the number of participants that are here, and good to have all of you. Wow, great, quite a big number. So I'm happy to have all of you here. So today we will just be focusing mostly on sustainable practices, because the other aspects of climate change have already been talked about in the other sessions. And so I just want to bring you alive to the fact that it's not going to be an academic kind of, session, because then it ceases to be a mentorship. So when I received this invite from MEMPRO, one thing that came into my mind was that, okay, there are sustainable practices that are already going on in the communities for which we belong to, or some of the organizations that we work in, our small groups. There's a lot that is happening there. So I would have loved to hear more from us on some of those sustainable practices. But before we delve deeper into the sustainable practices, there are certain things that we need to understand when we're talking about climate change. And so if we go back to understanding climate change, can somebody really help me and just in the simplest unpack what climate change is all about? When we're talking about climate change, when we're talking about climate justice, these are concepts. But then what is happening? Can somebody just probably raise up their hand and just describe for me what is happening? What is climate change, so that we get into the sustainable practices? Is there a hand I can pick on? Yes, Immaculate. Immaculate, please shoot.
Hello, everyone. My name is Watsembe Immaculate Brenda. To me, when it comes about climate change, what I understand is the change in weather patterns. For example, you could be maybe like the dry season used to be in January, but nowadays you can find it raining in January. So to me, when it comes to climate change, is the change in weather patterns.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful submission. Is there any other hand? A change in weather patterns. Yes, Cynthia?
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia. Climate change is simply the shift in weather patterns, either in temperature, where can rise or that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other hand? And please kindly let us know some of the examples of the change that you have seen over the years. and how that change is impacting our communities, our livelihoods, our economy. Yes. Is that Cynthia's hand? Yes, Cynthia.
The changes can be recently in January we experienced really, is it that period of January to early March, we experienced strong heat waves, like they were really hot during that period. And then also we saw the shift in the wet seasons. Like when we're supposed to be experiencing the somehow dry seasons, we're experiencing rains instead. And it's actually affecting the farming calendars for most farmers. So they are literally confused when they're supposed to plant and what time would be best for harvesting and also like weeding. Yeah.
Okay. So that has affected food production, and we know that about 75% of our population that is based in the rural, derive their livelihood from agriculture, and not just, industrial agriculture, large scale, but small scale agriculture. So a little change in weather affects them immensely because they do not have the capacities to be able to withstand the change. And so, yeah, so we need to be connecting to our daily situations in our villages, in our communities, how climate change is impacting on us. So I'm happy that you've been able to identify the how. And I just wanted to ask another person, Akwi Jennifer, what is causing all these changes? What is happening? Jennifer, Akwi, are you in here? Aseru Sarah, could you speak to us? What is causing these changes? There must be something causing these changes. Yes, Sarah? Sorry, I will randomly pick on everybody so that we are able to understand, because we are being mentored so that we become climate experts, we become climate scientists, and that we are not alarmists like the Malthusian theory, where we will just be speaking things from the periphery. We need to be speaking things with facts as we build our advocacy, as we're influencing in different spaces. We need information, we need experiences, lived experiences documented. So I'll pick on anybody, so don't take offense. Is Sarah in? Sarah, kindly unmute and speak. We have very little time, and yet we have a lot to cover. At exactly 14:10, we will be ending this session. Belinda Namtebi, could you speak to us? What is causing these changes? Kindly unmute if you're speaking. Is Belinda in? Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Belinda, yes. Please shoot. Okay, what is causing these changes? The rapid changes. What has happened?
First of all, what I think is causing the rapid changes is Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. What is causing these changes is the famous industrial action that started from back then, that is actually expanding into, like, everything is now becoming industrialized. Even the formerly natural agriculture, we are even starting to do industrial agriculture. And also for the things that used to keep the air fresh, for the things that used to keep us to keep the energy sustainable, the trees, we are now massively destroying trees so that we create and majorly we are neglecting the already natural sources of energy and actually moving towards the artificial instead of preserving what we already have.
So you talked about, I think somebody has also dropped in the chat. Not speaking. Esther, mute. Thank you. Kindly mute your mics if you're not speaking so that we're able to move forward. Yes.
Thank you. Hello.
Yes, Esther.
Yeah, I wanted to speak something. I've been trying hard to get also online, but it was failing. I wanted to speak something about under the causes of climate justice. Sometimes I also look at the cultural aspect part of it, whereby if I look at how the Africans look at climate change as far as women is concerned, women are really denied most of the rights. And yet if you are to look at it critically, women are like the heroes to climate change. Well, come to look at it in agricultural aspect, you find that culturally or ways of thinking, they look at women has nothing to do with what we call land. So that's why you find us most families or most homes are suffering from food insecurity. And now if you look at it if women are denied the access to land or land ownership, you get. So, and yet most of this agricultural work are really being done by women. Come to the garden work, from farming to everything, it's all on the women, but the men don't play really much role on it. And that one has also affected the climate justice itself, as far as women land rights and ownership is concerned. And that really affects us when you come to look at the food security bit of it. Yes, thank you.
Okay. She brings in a very interesting dimension. Thank you so much, Esther. I will just request that if you're not speaking, kindly mute your microphone so that we are able to move fast forward. Thank you so much, everyone who has mentioned the causes and everything else. I just want to get back to what Belinda spoke about. Very interesting. You know, there's one thing that we need to understand if we're climate advocates, is that there is a global dimension to what we are discussing. That since the pre-industrial times, human activities have caused approximately 1.0 degrees Celsius of global warming. That the things that we do, what Belinda said, from the industrial times, we are now going into, mechanization and every other thing. Those are the things that are causing the globe to warm, in other words. And we're already seeing the consequences of, for the people, nature, and livelihoods. And at that rate, therefore, we are going to reach beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius between this 2030 and 2052. It will be extremely hot. Now, because we belong to an ecosystem, we belong to a globe. And climate change is something that should unify, that should bring all of us together, irrespective of your race, gender, religious affiliation, sexual orientation. Because whatever happens, for example, in the polar zones, for those of you who understand what happens, when there's melting of the ice caps and so on, especially when there is a lot to do with how the south and northern hemisphere receive precipitation and everything else. Whatever happens, for example, in the Arctic, in Asia, will affect how things happen in Uganda, in your small village, in Iganga, in whichever area. So somebody has put there that it is mainly the carbon emissions. And people speak a lot of science on carbon emissions and gaseous greenhouse gas effect. Now, we need to understand that there are certain activities that trigger There is a way God has balanced the atmosphere or atmospheric conditions, very balanced, that there is coexistence of all the atmospheric what? Gases. For example, in the atmosphere, someone is talking about carbon emissions and so on. So for example, there's a way God has balanced carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane, and everything else to coexist, and each has its role in that thing called the ozone. Now, when you heat up the earth through fossil fuel extraction, for example, you then tamper with the structure of the atmosphere. Now, when that happens is that it alters. If it is supposed to rain, it may not rain. If it rains, it becomes too much. This is what Monica has posted for us there. That you know that trees are very important because they are they do what? They play a role of carbon what? Carbon sinks. Now, when we destroy the trees, we leave the environment bare. So these are things that we need to understand as so that we are not simply saying climate change, what is causing climate change? We need to know. And who is responsible for that? And who is supposed to be accountable? So based on that, I would like to usher us into, now this is where the problem is. We are here. It is either extremely hot or there is too much rain. It is either that we're experiencing desertification, which is a very rare subject. Whenever we are talking about climate change, especially in the context of Uganda, people limit it to only the rains and the dry season. Nobody's talking about the desertification that is coming from Karamoja side. It's very important for us to understand that desertification is coming in, and so we are all affected. Food production has reduced, livelihoods have totally gone down, exacerbating already existing inequalities. I think Esther already talked about women and climate change, a very core topic that we need to unpack. Within women, they're not homogeneous. Who is most affected? So this is causing unprecedented suffering at a terrible rate. And so therefore, we need to adopt and scale up sustainable practices. Now, the question is, what do we do in our daily lives? What should we do? If your action as Esther, as Jennifer, as Lucia, does it contribute to mitigation or adaptation? And I don't want us to confuse climate change, climate variability, climate justice, climate injustice. We will talk about it. So what are some of those sustainable practices, really sustainable and scalable? I don't want us to only stop at sustainability, but practices that somebody in village A has seen in so-and-so's farm and they're able to adopt. And those practices help to put food on the tables of so many women and young people and men in this country, and they're able to combat the effects of climate change. So I want to pass it over again to us. But at this time round, I would like to encourage us, because we are many, we may not all speak, kindly drop in the chat box so that I'm able to read through. I'll be able to follow. Thank you, Akelo, that using transportation, most cars, lorries, and so on use fossil fuels, of course, diesel, petrol, and so on, for making, these cars. And yes, they contribute to the greenhouse gas effect, especially rising, doubling carbon dioxide emissions and nitric oxide. So I think it is very important that we also understand that she's bringing in from the aspect of, let's look at the time of COVID from 2021, when the globe stopped using planes and trains, when people were not moving. Do you know how many or what rate or how much we cut in terms of our emissions? Very, very interesting. So if we want to say that let's stop the manufacturing of cars, then the world has to come to a standstill. Can we then talk about a transition from fossil fuel powered cars to electricity or solarization of some of these practices and so on? And I'll be very interested in hearing from you all about how we can sustainably combat climate change, but remain afloat. So I want to ask very quickly, what are some of the things that we can do? Maureen, Agnes, what is it that you can do as an individual, as a group, as a society, as a community, as an organization? What do you think? What are some of those practices that are really good that we should be able to advance? We should be able to advocate for their financing. You can never talk about climate change without financing. So Agnes and Maureen. Maureen, shoot first. What do you think we should do? Maureen, kindly unmute and speak.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you help me and first speak up with a question?
Okay, I just wanted to say that after what Belinda has said, what Akelo has posted, all these things, what should we do, or what are the good practices that we should continue doing in our communities? What should we do to be able to combat the effects of climate change, because it is here with us? What should be done? Thank you. Yes, Maureen, did you get me? Okay. If she's having connectivity challenges, can I have Agnes come in? Agnes? Agnes, please speak to some of the things. If Agnes is not ready, can I have Asimwe Namara? Asimwe, what should be done? We have very little time.
I feel like we can
Yes.
opt for using gas stoves instead of charcoal, because gas stoves are very eco-friendly. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. You're saying that we should be able to co-opt using gas?
To use gas stoves instead of charcoal stoves, because gas stoves are more friendly than charcoal burning, which contributes to the deforestation that is being carried out.
Okay, so I just have a follow-up question for you. How much is gas, 3 kilograms here in the country?
Filling
Anybody?
it up. Yes.
Buying
Filling
it.
up. Buying or filling? Buying. It's a long-term investment, because if you are buying one that is 150 and you're filling up at 60, charcoal stove, the bag is 90 in most places. Half a bag is 90,000.
But it's cheaper to get a charcoal stove than a gas cooker. Not everyone
That's
can
why we have
afford that.
no. Yes, that's why I'm looking at it as a long-term investment. That yes, you're saying it's cheaper, but in the long run, we are destroying the planet. But in a long-term investment plan, it is saving the environment, and it becomes cheaper in the
Okay.
end goal.
So somebody was trying to come in. Yes, I like this discussion because it helps us. Yes, Nancy. Nancy, do you want to say, do you want to respond to a proposition? Yes, Nancy?
Yeah, actually, I just want to submit in an opinion. You see,
Yes.
like she's saying, when you buy gas, it's actually in the wrong run, in the long run, it is like an investment. Yeah, it is true. And then in this whole issue of combating and maybe mitigation and all that, as we try to transit, we should look into a fair and just transition for everyone.
Beautiful.
Because like how many of us are able to afford that gas right now? Because if we woke up today and we said, okay, enough with the charcoal burning, let's end the firewood usage and all that, how many people are going to be able to survive? Because
Good.
they can get access to maybe let me say paying electricity bills and then the gas and all that. There is a lot that is actually can be done, but a lot can be done for different people. In Uganda right now, how many people can afford to get the electric gundi? the Kira Motors productions,
Vehicle.
those, yes, the bikes, they are there. Those are things that are coming, but they are in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing in this. This discussion helps us not to become alarmists. And so we will do some arithmetic. For example, Nancy proposes that, yes, we need to shift to gas, and she's right. We need to shift to gas. And then Nancy comes and says, wait a minute, have you looked at the recent poverty index where we are sliding into poverty, 20 steps behind from the progress we had made as a country? And she's coming to pose the question, the political, the economic, the social questions here when we're talking about climate change. And this is exactly why I want us to understand. Now, when she talks about a just transition, and someone has actually it's Asima who says that, and this is where climate financing comes in. Beautiful arguments here. The issue here is that it's not that nobody can fail to transition, but like Nancy raises, can they afford? And if they cannot afford, there is somebody responsible for setting the price. Remember that we are not the ones that set the price. The economies of scale. It's the private sector. In this country, in other countries, it's government. For example, Tanzania, if you've traveled far and wide, for some of you, you will see that about 80% of the households in Tanzania use gas. And so you wonder, who is regulating the price of goods and services in that country? Who sets the agenda? In this country, it is private sector. So I can come up today as Starbucks and choose to sell mine at 200. And then tomorrow I can come up with Total and choose to sell this and choose to refuel at 59,500 and choose not when I should give discounts. And it's very few that can really afford. We need to understand. I don't know if there are any reports on gas uptake. I would love to have that assessment, gas uptake in Uganda, just like we have the one for electricity. So I think for me, these are very interesting discussions. And this is why you now come in. Uganda is among the countries with the highest cost of gas. And Nancy, you are right. And therefore, if we want to see a sustainable practice, it is now that we have to advocate to government to incentivize that sector, to reduce the prices of gas for everybody, to make it affordable for everybody, to give waivers for everybody to transition. The reason as to why our people continuously pound the forests, the shrubs, the trees is because they have no alternative. But also we need to understand that this has a political dimension. Political meaning that we need to understand how legislation happens in our country. What are the priorities of the leaders that represent us in the legislation arm? So we need to organize ourselves and write maybe a petition to Parliament, to our members of Parliament, to be able to move a motion on reduction of gas. These are some of the things, the prices of gas in this country, so that we are able to save on fuel, on the forests and other sources. Electricity. I just want Enid to come in, and then Babi. Enid, how much is electricity per unit? How much do you pay umeme? Let's talk about umeme per unit. And then you can also put in and give in your input. You're welcome, Enid. Please shoot, unmute and speak, and then Babi.
Hello,
yes, Enid.
Everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm in a terrible can listen. Actually, yeah, I actually don't know the exact price per unit, but it's quite expensive. Not all homesteads in town actually have electricity.
Yes.
Yeah, so actually I was trying to submit on something that was said earlier.
Yes, please go on.
Now when we are dealing with climate change, remember we have the urban setting and the rural setting, meaning their needs differ. So for the urban setting, yes, the gas can do, but what I think would work best in the urban setting could be the sensitization, because right now if we are to sensitize the masses, most of them will be able to maybe have that mindset change. For example, I'm taking it from my circle. My circle of friends.
Colleagues, if
Hello?
you're not, I would request that you mute to allow Enid make her point. Please, Lutakome, kindly mute. Yes, Enid, please proceed in a second. I can invite Babi.
Yeah, as I was saying, we need to consider the urban setting and the rural setting. The needs of the two areas are different. Like for the urban setting, yes, I feel mass sensitization could do. Not all that we sensitize can change, but to the others. So I feel now for the rural setting, maybe how do we stop them from doing bush burning? We tell them, okay, what you have with it, what if you can use it for mulching? You can plant more trees. For charcoal, you can reduce the rate at which you use firewood, and that's what I just basically think. Yeah, sensitization would do much better. Yeah, because right now, for the few that have sensitized, you feel your instinct cannot allow you to take a soda and just drop the bottle anywhere. So that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So there's another giant in the room, which Babi, I want you to speak to very quickly in just 1 minute. That mindset change, even in the PDM mindset change, awareness. I think I want somebody to practically tell me, how should this be done? There are a multitude of organizations, groups such as yourselves who are doing work in the communities.
Hello?
People, please do not litter the environment. And then we are also talking about, so what should we really do? Thank you for bringing that microphone to Babi. Yes, Babi, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello?
Good afternoon, Babi. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Like, I didn't hear some of the words because it was network. But what I saw on this one is someone said of gas, but like the previous days, people were using gas. But later on, they discovered that the gas is expensive. So I'm saying this. We people, or the government, even the government should involve in this. Like, we fight how to reduce, like the government must reduce on the what? On the tax. The government should reduce on the tax that is carrying out. Even like in everything. Reason being, people who were making those charcoal. The people who were making those charcoal. Let me get some self, please. Okay, I was saying the people who were making the charcoal, like they'll be remaining with no work to do. So the government should at least provide something, or should construct some businesses for those people that they can come in to do something else instead of making charcoal.
Thank you, Babi. Diversification of livelihoods, creating a job system that is able to sustainably manage the bloating population, especially of young people. And so we need to also, but Babi, I just want to remind you that in 2019, Uganda's National Environment Act banned the exportation, the importation, the manufacturing, the use and reuse of plastic carrier bags. and plastic products. Do you remember? Made from polymers. Yes, those are made from polymers of polythene that are less than 30 microns. It is interesting that if right now, this is where we need to hold our government accountable. On that law, what are we doing as climate advocates to pick up that section of the law and, for example, task the legislators to go and understand what is happening in these plastic factories? Are they meeting the quality standards? And then how do they recycle? How do they dispose? Where do they put their byproducts? There are laws there, and government needs to be held accountable. We don't need to go for advocacy, what they call blanket advocacy. We need to go with, for advocacy with facts. That wait a minute, in 2019, not so long ago, you yourself in this act, you said that anything that is less than 30 microns, we are not allowing you to operate. But our factories that are continuously manufacturing polythene bags, are they being checked for this? And so on. And somebody has also just let you know, and others in the inbox, that we need to attack the issue from the basics. Afforestation. We saw how Mabira almost went. We are seeing in Atiak how trees are being cleared. We are seeing in West Nile, Friends of Zoka, we know that, how large forests are being cleared for industrial agriculture. And therefore, somebody here is saying that as a mitigation strategy, we need to plant more trees. But you will plant trees and they will come and cut them down. So we need a sustainable solution. And just allow me quickly get to the chat box, sorry. Okay, someone says that petitions, we need to petition government to lower taxes. Yes, you need to only not petition government, you need to identify who are your allies. Here we are talking about private sector. This economy is private sector led. And you see, because it is private sector led, they are the financiers of, for example, your budget as a country. So there are things that you cannot compromise. So it is therefore important that we speak honesty to government to be able to resource mobilize from within, from government parastatals, to avoid 65% of our national budget being externally funded. When it is so, then we shall not move into a green economy. And I also heard someone talking about the urban. We need the urban green belts. I've seen it in other countries. But in Kampala, any green area is a problem. Somebody wants to turn it into an arcade. We need to gazette. They're even gazetted. When you look at the act, the policies and the laws, they are gazetted areas. They say here you cannot put up a house. But what is happening in Kampala? We are reclaiming swamps. What is happening in Kampala? We are putting up arcades every day and night. There are no green areas. What's happening in the urban areas? There are no green areas. So we need to gazette green areas, what they call green taxonomy, being able to, have a system where investors, where development takes place, but within an eco-friendly system. So we need to ensure that whereas we need the malls, we need the arcades, we need the schools, we need the hospitals, we need the factories, but we need green belts and need to commit to that. So I just want to, yes, what other strategy, sustainable practice in your daily lives? Do I have farmers here? I'm talking about farmers who are already on farm.
Hello. Hello. Yes, please. I needed to say something.
Hold on. I am giving somebody a chance who has not said a word. Kindly mute. I'll come back to you. Okay. So apart from all that has been talked about in terms of transitioning to renewable energy and energy solutions, into the cook stoves, reduce the firewood, gas, etc. What else can we do to combat the effects of climate change? Somebody has also talked about afforestation, which is a mitigation strategy. What should be done? Gift? No, gift is difficult. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Gift. I would like to submit my practices that will actually help us to avoid the climate change. One is we have to educate and raise awareness about the climate change, because when you look at the other areas, let me talk about the West Nile region. When you go to that side of Lumbe side, you find that most of the charcoals they come from that side. It's because some of these people are not being educated about the climate change. So I prefer if the education, climate education should be raised. We should teach other people about climate change and encourage sustainable practices in communities. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Members, I just want to provide information and clarity. There's a difference between climate change, climate variability, weather. Those are, please go in your own space, go and read very well and understand. Now, Gift, people know that seasons have shifted. In this country, people know. For example, for us in Teso, we have two seasons. We have the dry season and we have the rainy season. Now, because of that, we know that, okay, between and then in Feb, March, we start with the planting of early maturing crops. People know that the change has happened. They know, including these leaders. They understand when floods, when sewage lines are breaking day and night, and sewage is flowing over people's compounds. They know that Kampala is flooded. They know that these trees are being cut and they're coming from Acholi, they're coming from Karamoja, they're coming from West Nile. They know how charcoal is being ferried. There's just something that we need to understand, that the topic around climate change has a geopolitical notion, that the financiers of different governments have their own interests. However, remember, we are also the least contributors to the problem. Gift, your smaller 7x7 garden, it only contributes, I think, 0.00 something, okay, of greenhouse gas emissions. The biggest contributors are seated in one of the hemispheres, okay, in the global north, that are financing our governments. Now, here internally, here, there are certain practices that we need to shift. And I'm happy about the sensitization. But how do we sensitize? Members, if I am doing activities, how can we do sensitization better? Because this thing called sensitization, you've also talked about climate education. Again, we have an opportunity to influence the curriculum. But when the curriculum, I don't know, is here or anybody who is well conversant with the education sector, kindly give us how we can navigate through. When the curriculum was being updated, and yourself, where agriculture has been pushed to BVET as a technical subject, how can a country that is thriving on agriculture as its backbone do that? It's therefore important that we have children in school from primary, from actually pre-primary. The syllabus should contain something on climate change and how how sustainably we can develop our environment in an eco-friendly system. So I just want to ask another person that Gift has talked about sensitization and climate education. How should this be done? Members, did we get something wrong from the onset? Is there a problem in the way we sensitize communities? Or there's a bigger underlying issue why communities are not changing their practices? It's practices. Does anybody want to shoot? Yes, has somebody raised their hand?
Yeah.
Yes, Nancy, or over?
Yeah, actually, I just want to say something on the sensitization part of it. You see, one thing that is happening, I think, is the I would call it poverty, but it doesn't really seem to be much of a thing, especially when it comes to the part of agriculture. Now you
Yes.
find that there are these fast growing seeds that are being given now, but of course they have more impact on the soil than our actual indigenous seeds here that we actually plant. So you find that someone is like in much need in a way that even if you talk to them of the importance of using these our indigenous varieties of seeds, there is that seedling they are being given that is going to grow like in three months, six, something like that. We had NASA 14 here. People shifted from their actual seeds that sorry, their cassava stock. They shifted from our indigenous ones because there is something that is closely giving here, something like that. So I think one major problem to that would be the poverty level. I think something like that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, poverty. But also, somebody talked about, I'm just trying to relate to what is in the chat box. Yes. I want us to understand something, that the primary gas that is responsible for greenhouse effect, we all know, is carbon dioxide, which is considered, by the way, the most significant anthropogenic greenhouse gas. However, there is methane. Methane is produced, through agricultural practices, landfills, and others, the nitrous oxide and the science around it. Now, if we are talking about agriculture, a shift in agricultural systems and food systems, if we are improving the indigenous seed systems without altering its originality, it is okay. It's okay to improve it. Maybe for example, the groundnut, maybe it could be susceptible to the rosette, the groundnut rosette virus and so on. It is possible for us to build its positive traits so that it is not susceptible, because maybe, it causes, seed loss and then germinability issues. And at the end of the day, farmers will not have anything to harvest. However, when we now introduce other practices such as pesticides, inorganic pesticides, I don't know, we are yet still an organic country, but it has become terrible. The use of inorganic pesticides is at unprecedented rate. And so when you spray, for example, when you're using glyphosate, okay, and then spray your farm, and later on it rains, we know that simple science, that there will be, a spillover. It will flow to the water bodies. It will flow to the river. It will flow to the spring well. What happens? People go and collect this water for domestic use. What happens? Animals will come and drink this water. And now this water has changed its structure because it's contaminated. What happens at the end of the day? We know that there will be side effects, okay? And it is terrible. The use of chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers, especially because they are built like that. You have to use it, you have to spray so that you can have a harvest. You have to spray. But our indigenous seed systems are resilient. They withstand diseases, they withstand pests, and they survive. Whether you spray our indigenous tomatoes, we have a small tomato, you don't actually spray it. We didn't know that we would have a cassava problem. We didn't know that we would have a banana issue with our indigenous bananas, because that is the structure, because they are built to survive in that kind of environment. However, because of a shift in the way we are doing agriculture, because of the phenotype 1 generation seeds that we are adopting, it brings in challenges that we are expected to use fertilizers. You're expected to use diammonium phosphate, NPK, and so many urea for top dressing. And so these have an effect on the soil structure and also the spillovers into the rivers, into the, and it affects what we call the aquatic life, the fishes, the frogs, and so on, that are really responsible for giving us that friendly environment for us to thrive as human beings, but also coexist. Now, I like it because you bring the dimension. Again, we have work to do as climate advocates, scientists, social workers, name it, lawyers on this call, that we have to give a call to government to regulate the importation of pesticides. I can tell you that I used to be in extension as a field extension officer. Farmers do not know how to use these chemicals. Somebody uses, and that's why you see in the cover of that chemical, it will tell you have to, spray while covering your nose, gumboots. When you're fully guarded, farmers don't, they go bare. No wonder when we were doing the biosafety and biotechnology bill, we got to know, when we're looking at a trend analysis of thyroid cancer in Uganda, that it was related to consumption of glyphosate, which was banned in America. When you take your tomatoes to Nakasero and they are not white with mancozeb, then you are a very poor farmer. You don't know what to do. People need white tomatoes. So these are some of the honest conversations that we need to. This system, the soil now in the soils, then you cannot have a bring to the table. With fact ones, then you need to do a trial and a control and bring the legislators, bring leaders on board, tell them, come to our farm and see how indigenous systems work and how these other systems are destroying the environment. So I wanted to just throw more light and bring us alive to the fact that technology advancement is here with us. It will not stop. Mechanization of agriculture will not stop, but that doesn't mean that we also stifle and silence our voices. We need to be able to rise up on things. Control and regulation of inorganic use, pesticide use in Uganda is zero. They pass through porous borders. They are smuggled in. Nobody tells farmers how to use it. Where do they, by the way, have you asked your farmers in the villages where they throw bottles of rocket after using it? Have you cared to understand where they put them? And we know that these are plastics and they do not decompose. So I think for me, coming together, that is why if you're climate advocates, it's a social movement. You have to gather people from all walks of life. You must come together as a coalition of the willing. It's of the willing. The emperor is not going to pay you money to say, hey, there's this, can you rise up? Can you have a press conference? Can you do, several practices in your farm? It is a calling of the willing. It's a social movement rising against some of the things put us to where we are, and even a worse situation. So we need to understand our role. We need to equip ourselves with skills, with advocacy skills, with knowledge. You cannot go into a space without knowledge. Please read widely. Read widely. Be a think tank. You don't have to be a climate scientist. I know of the so many farmers that are working with us. I know young people here. When we were in Arua for the dialogue with duty bearers on poor waste management, the ladies that spoke there did not go into any school of climate science, but they spoke from lived experiences and practices that they do on the ground. If you're talking about upscaling agroecology and agroforestry, then if we are 30, 50 people on this call, you can imagine if one of you picked each practice of agroecology. You may not take everything. You could do maybe agroforestry. You could do organic pesticides. You could do, local chicken breeding. You could do, pick one practice, and then we document, and then we drum up critical mass, and then we are telling government that we need price legislation on organic products in this country so that they are competitive. One reason as to why people don't want to transition is because they don't see the economic value. I told you climate change has a triad dimension: political, social, economic. If people don't see the reason as to why, if I grow my indigenous tomatoes and then I take to the market and then my indigenous tomatoes are being traded against the inorganics, I don't see the reason as to why I should go indigenous. Tomorrow, I will go and buy seed from any agro input shop. So therefore, there must be a price. I must be motivated. I must be given the chance to display, to sell. So we need agroecological zoning. These are some of the discussions I want you to have. We need to be zoned. We need agroecological markets. We only have one agroecological market. That is Abaita Babiri. Do you think that where do the saviors in L3 take their products? How about the Nancy's? How about the Immaculates? How about so where do they take their organic products? They should not compete with inorganic. Simple. So we need to counter some of these practices. I want to give it to Immaculate, who has raised her hand, and also be able to read some of the things from the chat box. To still hear what should we come in after Immaculate. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Sheila. Your presentation is real good. It is real actually it's more of advocacy. Each and every one of us has a role to play in terms of climate change, whether it's online advocacy or whether it's going to tell that farmer or that neighbor of yours about the climate change. It's a role for all of us. But then there is me, actually, I always bring it up when it comes to climate change and climate justice. Like, as we sensitize ourselves in Africa, in Uganda, in our communities, let's look at it at a global point of view, and also through our online advocacy, advocate for less industrialization, advocate for the countries that are causing all that because they are going to come and invest in Africa. Because I will not stop like, as me, Machete, I will not stop advocating for the carbon emissions, because it's real hard. These people are still coming to buy the carbon trade in Africa, then they go and build industries. So it's upon us as Africans to rise up and also condemn their acts, because if we are to just accept their money, there's nothing that is going to be done. But we need to really regulate and also advocate and also go against them, because they are of a higher power. We need to really be bold in whichever steps we take, and also advocate the farmer. As we advocate here in Africa, let's advocate to the whites to also control on their carbon emissions. Thank you.
Thank you. So the COP is coming up. For those of you who know that there's always COP. COP is the Conference of Parties, the ones that sign up to the UNFCCC agreement, the Paris Agreement, the Kyoto Protocol, the Sendai Framework, name all those. It's coming up in Baku this November. And so there have been pre-COP conversations. I was part of the pre-COP engagements as last year as a thematic lead on adaptation, loss and damage. And these are some of the things, of course, we celebrated in Dubai and in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt the previous year. That okay, we now have the loss and damage fund. Here it is. Yes, countries have committed, but then we need to go deeper. Like, for example, when it comes to Uganda, which ministry is hosting it? Of course, it sits within Ministry of Finance, especially the Climate Change Unit, and then it's implemented by Ministry of Water, especially the Climate Change Department. And then we need to understand, how can we access these funds? This is where our advocates, how can the bureaucratic processes be simplified for local organizations, for young people-led organizations, women-led, individuals, climate activists to access these funds so that they're able to upscale their innovations and solutions around climate change? These are some of the discussions. So let's be very, very active in tracking climate finances. We have the GCF, the Green Climate Fund. We have the Green Environment Fund. All these funds are here to be able to, there are so many. So let's go and study who gets them. What is the criterion? Where are young people? All these questions are questions we need to ask. And government needs to provide us with accountability of how they've utilized these funds, how many young people groups have been able to get these funds, and so on. So we need to ensure that, and somebody has just dropped here, that there are loopholes and overlaps in the law. Well and good. We have the anti-Kavera policy passed in 20. Most of our policies and laws are reactionary. Something happens. We saw last year, I think last year into this year, they asked everybody who was driving a car, you must have a what is that thing called? A rubbish bin, something, where you keep your your dirty stuff, a bin in the car. What has happened? Police officers were stopping people and, you know, asking you whether you have it. Some people were charged. A few 2 months down the road, it all vanished. So implementation of our policies is a problem. There's no political will. And so it also tells you how we need to tailor our advocacy. What is it that the district can do within their mandate and consume? Sometimes we go into these advocacy spaces and we are asking cow things the minister is supposed to answer. So we need to also identify what are the spaces for us to do advocacy. Otherwise, it will be very good advocacy, wrong audience. The cow is also crying and telling you we've not received the finances for the financial year, this quarter two. How do we do? The Department of Production and this is saying, no, we don't have money. Central government IPFs are saying ABCD. So we need to be able to carry forward our advocacy as a collective together so that we are able to do that. So there are several conversations happening at COP and other, you know, UNFCCC processes, the BON, the SB, Subsidiary Body on Science and Technology 60. The 60th sitting happened in Germany this year in June. We are sure that next year it's also going to happen, the Africa Climate Summit. How do we position ourselves ahead of those? For example, I would expect that we have a few days to the COP, that we organize ourselves here and have a Twitter space well mobilized, getting young people, you know, reflections on the COP. What does it mean to young people? What does it mean? We already have some young people negotiators. Some of them, you know them. Walter is a negotiator. Denise Ayebare is a negotiator. They've been trained, and you've seen social media is awash with their pictures. We need to, as a Twitter space, we need our voices to be heard. Even as far as Baku, we can do here a Twitter space a few days to the COP. You bring people who have understood, who have been in this space to speak to you, ask the questions as young people, organize a pre-COP session so that we are able to do that. So I wanted very quickly for us to understand that as we close this session, that there is what we can do. What we can do is let us embrace agroecology, agroforestry, practice change, behavioral change. If you take water, please don't litter your bottle. Those are just behaviors that you don't find in other countries, but you find it here. Let us also make sure that we have a community of practice, okay, where we come up with our own initiatives, innovations, document them, scale them, invite people, market them, so that we are able to counter the situation that we are in. But also it is important that we carry forward some of the practices like renewable energy, decarbonized briquettes, to replace charcoal, make sure that homesteads that we are surrounded have at least these cook stoves, have these Lorena stoves. Just do it as a community of practice. You can say 10 young people, let's organize and, you know, move every week. We shall go to 5 households and make for them these cook stoves. You can imagine how many households you'd have, you know, handled in a period of time as a way of raising awareness, you know, by practically showing them that we can shift from this to that. The other is that policy, we need to engage continuously in our advocacy, and we need to change our advocacy campaigns with what the interest of government at that time. So we need to understand that how we do our advocacy will either give us results. And please, young people, I want to imagine most of you in this space are young people. Please, advocacy is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Today you call for a breakfast meeting with the commissioner of Ministry of Water, and they're not there. You've invested money. Tomorrow you are writing a position paper, you're waiting to present it in one of the spaces, and then they tell you, oh, the program has changed, therefore the young people of NEBI cannot present this position paper. Please don't give up. Make sure that you are consistent. Make sure that you are consistent in your actions. Don't give up. Sometimes it will even require personal resources. I know some of your colleagues who are here. Xavier has used his own money, for example, to attend the National Youth Parliament. He was not supported by any organization. The zeal, the passion to change society drives you beyond money. The challenge with most of us, we are looking at how much does it cost for me to be in that meeting. Not the knowledge transfer, not the opportunity to change the world with your small actions. It's about the money. And now we put profits over planet. And so this is a call, a wake-up call to all of us, that we can humbly contribute 2, 3 actions, we can change this country. We can change this world to become a better place that we want everybody to live in. The trees we are planting are not going to benefit us now. No, let nobody lie to you. It's for generations. The trees we are enjoying in most of the Gombolora, in most of the sub-counties, were planted by Kakungulu. So therefore, it is not right for us to only be there as, oh, we are activists. How many trees have you planted? Immaculate, how many trees do you have? Even if it is on your veranda. Nancy, how many trees do you have?
1 from Xavier, 5 from my own. So those are 6.
6 trees.
And yes, and as a group, from the MEMPRO group, we decided to start to preach out a practice of planting a tree on your birthday. So as you're gifting a friend chocolates, dress or something, give them a seedling of their favorite fruit.
Thank you. Margaret Asara, how many trees do you have? Monica, what are you doing in your village? Helen, somebody could just unmute. Let's just unmute and speak about it.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, Babi has something to say. Yes, Margaret, go, and then Babi.
I've planted 5, and I'm planning to have 5 more before this year ends.
Great. Babi, you have something very urgent to say as we close in the next 2 minutes. Babi, do you have something to say? If Babi is yet still struggling with her connection, Helen, Muyama Helen, let me hear from you. What have you done in just a second? Jennifer, shoot. What have you done?
I have 26 trees, and then indigenous trees are planted like 10.
Oh, beautiful. Fiona, how many practices have you done in your community, and how many women are you influencing and girls?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, I've done a lot, and I have I don't know how it's almost like 1 acre of eucalyptus trees in the village, and still I am one person who doesn't throw a bottle. I can move from Kampala to somewhere with my bottle until I get the dustbin, and usually I tell people not to throw anything like kavela, like bottles, throw them anywhere. You find some beautiful girl, but is just throwing a bottle in the road. So I'm the one person who hates that, and I usually tell people not to do it.
Thank you. So, yes, as Segawa Henry comes in, Henry, as a man, what role do you have in terms of, environmental sustainability? I need to hear a male voice here, otherwise then I'll be really, really, really biased. Henry? Have the men decided to pretend that their internet is not okay?
Good.
Save the men. Save the men.
Yes,
yes, over to you.
Thank you very much. I've been following closely. I've planted a few trees in total to about 20,000 personal, and then with group members up to about, I think, 20,700. Meaning we have planted about in total of about 550,000 trees so far in the past 3 years. And then we do advocacy on climate justice and agroecology practices within our reach. Though we have specific areas we work in, but anywhere we go, it's a gospel we preach, agroecology adoption, and policy starting from the smallest resolution within communities where we come up with bylaws. We really want to see a green environment and a sustainable, resilient, stable families and communities. That's basically the small I'm doing, and a few group members. Thank you very much. And support from other partners also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Xavier. You're doing a lot in your community. Next time we're going to be having this mentorship, I really want to hear from everybody. What is it that they are doing? If we don't hold ourselves accountable, then we have no moral authority to hold anybody accountable. There is something interesting in the chat box here. I have volunteered to clean drainage systems in the area that I live. Oh my God, Mempro girls and boys who are here. This is somebody that we need to recognize. These are the real heroes. Is this a she? Volunteering to clean drainage systems in the area. Why are you not recognizing these people? Can you document a story of change? Is Sharon here? Sharon from Mempro?
Yes, please.
Please, Sharon, capture this. Somebody is volunteering to document, to clean up drainage systems in the areas because they are facing floods. But then as we do that, we need to document that story and use it as an advocacy message because it's not his role and responsibility to build drainage systems. We are taxpayers and citizens of this country, and we are entitled to public services that are good. And so this is just an act out of goodwill. But then we need to document it so that we are able to show the world that we have people who are doing immense work here, young people doing very significant changes and transformation in their community. This one deserves an award, which I think that the first award will be from Xavier in terms of trees. Xavier should be able to give you trees. So to add on tree planting, somebody, Prima, is also training their groups on energy making technologies, the carbonized briquettes, and using cow dung. Beautiful, because then if we don't also use it, if we don't put it to use, it's also responsible for some of the challenges that we have. And then Cynthia says she has planted 4 fruit trees. Very good start. Colleagues, I just want to say that this has been a very interesting conversation. I want us to know that the sustainable practices that you've talked about, diversification of livelihood sources is very important so that we don't rely on heavily energy from the forests. Okay, we need to diversify. We need to talk about promotion of agroforestry, integrating crops, livestock, and planting trees. Very important. Most of us, when we talk about agroecology and other practices, we think about only crop. There are people in this group who come from communities that are really, really promoting livestock production, which is a very good thing. And we need to make sure that we do that promotion. Renewable energy and a just transition. Okay. Use of drought resistant varieties and fast maturing crops. And somebody saying which type of trees are resistant to drought. Xavier, I think I will also invite you to speak to the trees, especially that we are also going to be very careful on what trees we are going to grow, because then we know that some trees have they're heavy feeders when it comes to water consumption and so on. So we need to be very, very specific. Very quickly, in just 30 seconds, what trees are drought resistant? Xavier,
Musizi is very resistant in hot areas. Mahogany, Albizia. Pardon? Mahogany, Musizi, Albizia. Those ones at least are the most resistant that I know that we have tried in our areas. In very dry areas, at least they can do well. Among other agroforestry trees. Yes, please.
Which are those among other? Okay, so I think Xavier has, yes. So, but he has already told us. I hope the person who asked the drought tolerant trees, you've got it? Yes. And then we also need to adopt technologies that, that help our farms, like water harvesting, when you do the ZIPITs, mulching, planting in furrows. intercropping, not mono, and those other practices, use of micro irrigation schemes and systems. Of course, irrigation is a luxury in this country because it's really expensive depending on what kind of irrigation you're going in for, whether you're talking about the which our farmers can easily adopt, but also scale them up. Those that are, use local available resources. Yes, use of ridges as a planting method, and all these technologies, that we are able to, adopt and also scale up. The ones that will not scare off our farmers. When I was in extension, we did some of the fish ponds, beautifully done, and no farmer was able to adopt. Why? Because they were hybrid of fish ponds. So we realized that we need to understand the agroecological, the ecological, system that is in that village, and also look at what is it that farmers can easily adopt using local available resources, so that we don't create some fashionable things in our communities. If you're doing the Lorena stoves, please do things that farmers can adopt and scale up. So I want to end here and give one person who has not spoken a chance to give us a call for action, a wake-up call, an elevator pitch, but also to give us a motivation in just 2 words. What is it that, who wants to volunteer? Who wants to become a climate orator? Somebody, do you want to give us the last parting shots? Is Brixon here? Brixon, can you hear me? Who wants to volunteer to give us the parting shot as we close this session? Yes. I want someone who hasn't talked. But Nancy, since they are delaying, kindly, we were supposed to stop at 4:10. We've stretched by 15 minutes. Sorry, and I apologize. But yeah, these are the sacrifices we have to make if we want to change this world to a better place. So just bear with us for the next 1 minute as Nancy gives us a parting shot. Over to you, Nancy. I like your advocacy.
Okay, I want to begin by appreciating you, Sheila. Thank you very much. Like I said in the comments, anytime you're in a room, that becomes a room full of learning. Thank you very much for impacting on us, and we hope to take this ahead. And for my colleagues, I would like to say that every single bit of action that we do actually matters. Be what you are talking about. Take that water, find a dustbin, drop that bottle. Others will see from you and they will be able to do. And for agriculture, basically, agroecology is the way to go. Thank you very much. The most little things matter.
Wow, powerful. Thank you. And I wish you guys a very beautiful evening from wherever you are. Please consume organic products and stop taking carbonated drinks. Be mindful of your health. The very best. I'll see you in shape. Bye. And thanks to Mempro. I love you so much.
We love you.
Yes, please. Yes, I'm still here.
Yes, so I just wanted to say thank you very much, and thank you so much. Even when I could not keep up with the presentation, with the conversation, because of my network issues, I really don't doubt this. But also to our participants now, you can understand our facilitator for today, the feminist, the ecofeminism spirit in her does not let her down. Her blood is working for climate action. We're talking about agroecology, we are talking about water conservation, waste management, we are talking about policies, everything sustainable for climate action is why actually we brought her here today. And we ask that when we call you for the next session, please, Sheila, don't turn us down, be present, be with us. And I think every person here would really want to have another conversation with you again. I'll check in with you to find out what day you're free. We can schedule another session and you look at a different topic. But I know anything climate action, you're in for it. And thank you all of you for being patient with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm grateful, Sharon. All right. Bye.